Testing testes. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to PanNerdia and welcome back to another Sharp Objects review show. So, AA Ron here, ready to review episode 6 of Sharp Objects, Cherry. And just letting you guys know that this was supposed to be a test, but I'm live. So, here we are. I meant to press start recording. I said testing testicles. So, here's the thumb for this episode, and here is the standby screen. So, hello, AA Ron here. Like I said, we're going to go ahead and review last week's episode, episode 6 of Sharp Objects, the HBO miniseries, Cherry, as well as preview tonight's episode, episode 7, Falling. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about last week's episode. That's funny. Alright. Like I said, the episode title, Cherry. Last week on episode 5, Closer, we left off with Camille and Detective Willis getting a little freaky, but Camille's way. And as she's waking up, she's having memories of not only her mom saying that she didn't love her, but also some childhood memories. And she then wakes up next to Willis, gives him a little back tickle, and proceeds on her day. Willis, of course, is trying to keep her in, but is already starting to notice something a little odd with Camille, especially the fact that she woke up with her clothes on, and Willis sitting there butt-ass naked. So he's already kind of on to her. Not that he probably wasn't already, but definitely more so after their little sexcapade, right? We then flash over to Camille back at the Krellin residence, and she's sitting there eating a delicious cherry pie, I'm presumed made by Gayla just that morning. Her mom comes in. They have somewhat of a nice interaction, which is weird, especially since Adora said that she didn't love her the night before, that cold bitch. But she's sitting there eating, and Adora's kind of like, everything cool? And Camille's kind of like, yeah, what? And it's kind of like that sense, like, you know, when your parents know when you have sex, right? They know when you've gotten laid. And I think she senses that. But the cherry pie is not only for breakfast, it is also what's on the memory list. And she kind of goes down memory lane to a point where she had just gotten her cheerleader uniform. I'm assuming it's for, like, the middle school. She has her short hair. She's wearing a red cheerleader outfit. She comes in. Her sister, Marion, says how, you know, you can just gobble her up, and her mom goes ahead and says yes, just like a plump, juicy cherry. Probably citing towards the fact that she's getting older, and she's probably going to get the eyes and the hands of the young men. A plump, juicy little cherry. It kind of, you know, it rings a lot, and it rings a little more later on in the episode once she meets up with her old cheerleader friends. She then goes up to see what Emma's up to. Seeing what's going on with her, saying, hey, you know, it's a little crazy here. You probably shouldn't be getting back up right away. She's kind of like, well, I'm going to go hang out with my friends. I got a joint ready and everything. Goes to show Camille her cuts after Camille marks that, you know, you probably should put something on those. And she's already like, if I connect these two lines, it can make a C for Camille. You know, kind of pushing Camille's button, but not intentionally. This totally shows how naive Emma is, and of course she would be. She is younger, but Camille's already, you know, slashes that down, no pun intended, and tells her to knock it off. All right. We then get some footage of, or some scenes with Detective Willis starting his day. I'm trying to find the chief, but gets a phone call by the chief ultimately. But before that, he's also calling in dispatch and trying to get some information on Camille, see if there's any hospitals or anything that she's visited. So he's kind of digging where he shouldn't be, but we'll get to that. Meanwhile, Chief Vickery gives Richard a call, lets him know that they found some important evidence. So Of course, Detective Willis is on his way, and it's over at the Preaker Pig Farm. Again, learning more about the Preaker. They haul out a bicycle, and as you're hauling it out, you see that Bob Nash is there. So we're assuming that this is going to be Ann Nash's bike, right? Detective Willis even asks, is there a way you can identify it, maybe by the seat? Willis wipes it. Of course, it's the flower-covered seat. Bob kind of just freaks out, adores there. Of course now, as an audience, at least I was already finding this very fishy. That Adore's there. She got a phone call earlier in the morning, too. So it's a little eerie that, almost like it's a setup, you know what I'm saying? Like, somebody set this up on purpose. Put that bike in the pig shit pond, and they're trying to set up evidence where it doesn't need to be, right? And I think it's Adora's doing. But we'll find out. We'll find out. My nose is going towards Adora, though. We then go over to the day in the life of Emma as she's over at John's girlfriend's house. And out there with her friends, just chilling by the pool. John's standing there creepy with his shirt off, smoking a cig, and kind of watching Emma. And they kind of have this interaction to where at one point John's kind of like, you know, that being said, Emma's always egging him on. But John's like, oh, and by the way, Emma's trying to totally get in his pants here. John's like, I always have my eye on you, Emma, just letting you know that. And right when he says that, Camille walks around the corner. She was already kind of peering in a little bit. But she's there to get another interview with John's girlfriend, right? So she shows up. Of course, John's girlfriend's spitting the bullshit again, trying to act like, you know, everything's so hunky-dory to protect John. But during this, Camille kind of shuts her down. It's like, I don't want any of this. But notice it, kind of trying to get the truth out of her. Notices that she's got a little nibble mark out of her ear. Was that John? Was that somebody else? We'll find out soon. Now, Camille sitting there giving the interview, notices she's wearing the cheerleader uniform again. And she has a little flashback back when she was cheerleading as a high schooler. Now, this is her as a high schooler now. She's got her longer hair. She's in her black and gold uniform. And she said she has a cramp, and she's getting massaged by her one friend when blood starts coming down the leg. Now, none of the other girls see the blood right away. Her one friend massaging her does, but once she stands up and walks away, the other girls notice, and they automatically presume that it's her period, right? She's having her period in front of her. But again, don't let that fool you. More will be explained later on. While Camille is finishing up there at John Keene's, she gets a phone call from Detective Willis saying, as he's driving back to St. Louis, because he's gotten a lead on Camille. He's calling Camille, acting like everything's cool, and saying that, hey, guess what we found today? And so Camille, of course, rushes home because Detective Willis lets her know that it was all help to your mom, Adora. Obviously being very pissed because, you know, it's kind of her job to find this stuff out. She runs back and kind of gets in the door, starts questioning her. Of course, they're kind of acting aloof, her and Alan both. I thought you were cool, Alan. And Camille's not really having it. She really wants to know the truth here. Meanwhile, as the tip's going on and Camille goes inside, we finally get flashback to Richard as he's going to the same ward that Camille checked herself in when she was staying with Alice. Right, so he tries to get one-on-one with the MD there to try to get a better understanding in the inner workings of Camille. But alas, isn't finding out too much due to his dismay. You know, he drove like, what, 3-4 hours? No, not 4 hours, like 3 hours to get there. Hour and a half-ish. And he didn't get what he was looking for. We get finally some more interaction between Camille and Frank and his wife. And as she's updating them on the fact that they found that bike, but she's kind of thinking it's fishy as well. She thinks that somebody's covering something up or putting something as a red herring, right? And we finally get actually some interaction between Frank's wife and Camille, which we assumed that they have in a relationship with each other, but we haven't got to see it yet. So they kind of get some connection here. It kind of helps, you know, uplift Camille in furthering her pursuits. Going back, as Camille goes to move her car, because that's kind of how they'll tiff. Besides the fact that Camille wanted to find out why Adora didn't tell her about the bike, they're also pissed that Camille came and parked on the lawn, that she's been doing for the last week or whatever she's been there. But she walks out, and Alan, of course, stops her and is like, don't worry about your car right now, but I need to let you know you're making your mother sick, and if this doesn't continue to get better, then I'm going to have to ask you to leave. And they have this interaction. And again, Alan, I thought you were cool. I mean, dude, you are a creep, but shit, dog, I thought you were a cool dude. And apparently you're not. So they get in their fight. He kind of actually references that Camille reminds him of her grandmother. So he didn't like her grandmother, saying that Adora had a tough life. And Camille, of course, laughs at that thought, walks off the porch, gives him the middle finger, and gets into the car of the cheerleader friends. Because remember, she's going to have a day of watching sad movies and drinking wine with him. Typical shit Camille probably doesn't want to be a part of. But hey, she's hooking it up. She's already got some whiskey on the rocks for her. She's got a fucking hookup in the middle of her SUV. She's locked and loaded with a cooler and all that. She's good to go, baby. And they head on over to the house. Now, nothing too crazy here. It's just her kind of interaction with these girls again after all these years, especially with her friend here on screen. Her and Camille are kind of the outcasts of the group. They're still part of it, but they also realize how frivolous and petty they can be, right? We get some interactions between them. Just before that, Camille's upstairs using the restroom and runs into Mr. Lacey. Well, why? Because he's married to the blonde chick, former cheerleader. And everybody even jokes that, oh, yeah, Camille, you could have been living here with him. She's like, yeah, whatever. But he wants to apologize after all those years. Remember, he was the one who was part of the boys training, running a train on Camille? Well, he tries to apologize, and she immediately stops him in his tracks, which is really badass, man. She's like, what? Why? I forgot about that. You should forget about it too. And he's like, why? You have daughters? It makes me sick. She's like, look, you couldn't even get it up. She's like totally rubbing his face, and she's like, so it really shouldn't matter. She's like, grow up and get over it. And he's like, but it's so. And she's like, well, I guess we were both fucked then. And that line right there, man, like, wow, like that really stuck it to the man, right? And it kind of left him with a gruesome look on his face, kind of like he was angry at something. Again, I think he's, as far as the producers are throwing it in, is somewhat of a red herring. I don't think he would be the killer, but he could be. I just think there hasn't been too much with him thrown in. It's something to kind of distract us. So, we actually get a scene, and I guess I forgot to put the picture in earlier. But earlier in the episode, Detective Willis had seen Jackie O'Neill at the death site of Natalie Keene, and or where the body was found. You know, sprucing up the area, giving new flowers and whatnot, trying to get some more information for Camille. After he gets back in town, into Wind Gap from St. Louis after going to the ward, he goes to the bar to get a drink and runs into Jackie there. Jackie's already drinking, so as she said earlier, the only way you're going to get more information out of me is perhaps if I'm drinking some. So he proceeds to have some drinks with her, and, well, Jackie being Jackie, she's, of course, got her hand on his thigh, trying to move things forward. They don't, so he goes ahead and presses her for the questions. Not that anything big is revealed, but Jackie does, again, reiterate that Camille, she's very fond of Camille, and Camille is a very special girl, one that's very precious and fragile. Now, those might not be the exact words, but again, it's revealing more to the detective that he's not too sure of. Because by his eyes, she seems very bold. I mean, she kind of tells him exactly what's on her mind. She doesn't let kind of the bullshit get past. And the fact that he's hearing that she's a fragile little rose, one without thorns and this and that. He's very curious. After Camille gets dropped off after the girls' night by her friend, she actually reveals to her that, I knew you weren't on your period then. You actually had cherry cut into your skin, the word cherry. So Camille, we find out a little bit, was actually cutting herself using words way back when she was in high school. I figured it would probably be somewhere around college it started, but it started way back then. So it tells you how much these things her mother says are really like digging deep into her psyche here. And perhaps every word that's on her is a word that has come out of her mother's mouth. Either way, you know, she kind of says, her friend kind of says like a little quote that Camille likes, trying to relate and understand why she did it, and Camille kind of goes along with it, and the night is over. But not yet, because Camille's got to get her booze for her avian bottle. She's in there doing her thing, and Emma and her friends come rolling up. Can't believe you're here, oh my god. So they're like, hey, we'll take you home. You don't have to walk. We'll take you home. Wink, wink. They're actually trying to get her to go out with them, right? All the boys are there, their friends. They take off the roller skates, they jump into the Jeep, and they take off. And Emma reveals why she's so happy. Well, because she's dropped some Oxycontin. And she wants Camille to do the same. Camille, of course, doesn't want to with her kid's sister, but they peer pressure her in. And Camille's ready to have a good night. She deserves it. She's been through some shit, right? So you get this big house party. I can't tell whose place is at. But as they're in there for a few minutes. And then John Keane and his girlfriend come in, right? Everybody's already looking at him weird because everybody thinks John is the killer. But she goes ahead and insists that they need to be out there. They don't want to be outcasts, right? But she notices that her little sister is with Emma and all her other little friends. And she's like, what are you little bitches doing here, right? Little fight starts. Camille tries to break it up. And in that little tiff, Camille and John's sister, or John's girlfriend, have a little talk again about the article. Once again, Camille denies her, your shit's bullshit. I'm not going to put you in the newspaper. And she's like, well, I already told all my friends. And she's like, look, you know, the other day you tried to threaten me with something you knew. Well, what about the bite on your ear? What is that about? Why are you withholding this information? All right? Or are you trying to cover something up? So Camille's obviously onto something as well here. And I think she's getting closer to the truth than she actually realizes, right? Yeah, she's not into this chick. But then after she leaves, and Camille is thinking about leaving at this point, Emma drags her back up to the VIP room and says, hey, you ever played rolling roulette? She's like, what's that? Well, you put X in your mouth and pass it around tongue to tongue as it dissolves. The last person tongue dissolves on is the winner. So, well, Camille's already down in Oxycontin. What would some ecstasy hurt? So they pass it around. Sexy little scene here. And Emma comes up to Camille, passing through everybody else's turn, and gives her the whole pill X. Plop. Saying, it's my sister. She's my guest. Plus, she's been through some shitty times. We both lost a dead sister. What a fucking creep, right? So, at this point, Camille's feeling pretty good. See by this picture here, she's digging it. She's looking at the lights. She's watching as her little sister Emma and her friends are dancing to some old school 70 tunes. And she's enjoying herself. But as she sits there, she kind of goes into La La Land and stumbles out. Emma follows her. I want to come with you. And they go rollerblading in the night on X and Oxy. During this scene, it's very important because Camille is feeling the pleasures of the drug, but what's it doing? It's opening the pleasures of her past, the little bitty bits of pleasure that take her away from all the pain she's felt. But that doesn't mean just because these pleasures are rushing in that the pain is washed away. because little bits of that painful past flash in too. So it's this weird kind of dichotomy of her feelings fully bloomed while under the influence of X and Oxycontin. But the rollerblading, I think, kind of supersedes it back to her original feeling of rollerblading with her little sister Marion. Now she's doing it with her youngest sister Emma. They're having a blast though, and they roll by the diner, see the chief walk in, not realizing that Detective Richard Willis is in there as well. Kind of do a nice perspective switch to those two, and the chief saying that, well, you'll be going home tomorrow, Kansas City, because guess what? We identified the person who dropped the bike in the pond, and it was John Keene, saying that one of the pig farmers there noticed him. Again, sounds a little fishy, almost perfect. Why didn't the pig farmer say anything before that John was throwing a bike in? Setup, perhaps? We then get the girls coming back to the house, falling down in the yard, and having a little discussion. Machiavellian discussion, perhaps? Camille is surprised that her sister Emma knows about Machiavelli, saying that it's better to be feared than loved. And they kind of have an understanding here. But this is also when Camille questions Emma, do you cut yourself too? And Emma kind of stands up, laughing it off, saying how happy she is. They do little spins in the yard. They spin around each other. And it's all fun and games. They fall. Emma's asking if she go to St. Louis with her sister. She can get a job, this and that, how she loves her. They're having this connection. This real connection at this point, I think. Yes, the drugs are apparent, but the emotional connection's very much so there. Even to the point where Emma's begging for them to sleep together tonight in the same room, and though Camille did want to deny it at first, she succumbed and they went inside. As they're walking upstairs, Camille even shows Emma how to climb the banister to get around to their room faster, right? So they're having fun. And as the perspective shows Emma climbing the banister, we see somebody's head, just the top of their head, as they're looking up the stairs. And when they look back down the stairs, if you guys notice, right there, that's Marion's ghost peeping through. Now, we've seen Marion's ghost throughout the house before, and it's not always when Camille just sees her in a flash between Alice's ghost, Marion, and the other girls. What she did see while they were spinning, by the way, Marion appears to the audience, right? To us. There was a scene earlier in the season where Adora walked by the bench in the upstairs walkway, and Marion was sitting there, right? So, as an audience, we see Marion as well. And it's almost apparent, or assumed, I guess, or presumed that us seeing her, that the house might be haunted by Marion, right? Her spirit still rests there. They both crash out in Camille's room, just dead beat, right? And Emma starts kind of petting Camille's back, rolling her hand over the scars, saying, you ever feel like something's bad about to happen to you and there's nothing you can do about it? It's a little weird, right? I rewatched this scene many times, not only for this reason, for another reason coming up, but this reason in particular struck me because, again, it's almost making me think, because how aloof Adora is to everything Emma does, right? That perhaps Adora wanted Emma to bring Camille along with her, to get some more information out. I could be thinking too far ahead. I could be thinking way too much about this, overthinking it, but I believe that there's a chance even Emma's one of Adora's puppets, right? As much as she says she's not, as she cannot be cordial. Uncorrigible, right? As they're laying there, though, we do get a peep, speaking of Adora, in the reflection of the mirror of Adora peeping in the room. Wide awake looking, because she still seems like she has her makeup on and whatnot. But definitely looking somewhat disappointed that not only Camille's there because they asked her to leave, but she's there effed up with her little sister, right? And Emma's influenced by Camille's bad ways, according to Adora. But definitely an eerie scene. But that eerie scene leads to the next extremely eerie scene that ends the damn episode and left me like, what the frack? Alright? And this very scene here, as Adora closes the door and the reflection then goes from sharp back to the sharpness around Camille there, and it blurs out the back. We see somebody grabbing Camille's hand, right? Now, what did we just talk about? Who did we just see downstairs? We then get another juxtaposition of viewpoint of Camille looking in the mirror as she lays on the bed, and somebody's sitting there reflected in the mirror. Right there. Marion. And it's not just a quick glance at Marion reflected in the mirror as she holds Camille's hand. She also says to Camille, "It's not safe for you here." Wow. What? What? I'm pretty sure Camille heard that. She witnessed that. Yeah, she's on ecstasy. Yeah, she's on Oxycontin. She's drank some booze. Was it the combination of drugs and her already psychosis? Or did she really see a ghost? Either way, this show's leaving me very interested in the last 2 episodes of this entire series. I'm really curious where it's heading. And more, I think that Adora is the one responsible. But and I think Marion's ghost is going to let Camille know that very fact. Now, was this show supposed to be a ghost story? I don't know. And is this still just kind of like an artsy-fartsy kind of thing? I don't know. I never read the books. But from what I'm getting, the feeling I'm getting, this story is somewhat of a ghost story too. And I can dig that. So, as for episode 6 of Sharp Objects, titled Cherry, it's a damn good episode. I highly suggest it. I don't really do like a point system. I might have said something like 9 out of 10 in the past. Look, it's a damn good episode. If you're liking the series, you need to go watch this. Again, it's tying everything in, but it's not pulling it to a point yet, all right? These last 2 episodes definitely will. This is just kind of gathering everything to a head, and with this little ghost reveal here, I think everything's going to come tumbling down now, and I can't wait to see what happens. Especially on tonight's episode, Falling, episode 7. Again, only 2 episodes left. Now, let's go ahead and peep at the preview for episode 7 before we make some predictions, okay? So, here we go.
Mama takes care of me after.
Mama takes care of me in the morning when I'm wasted. That's the best part. Huh. Now, this really doesn't reveal much. I do remember that much.
Sweet.
But they seem to go... They seem to arrest John. Somebody stroked Camille's back scar. And there's only 2 episodes left. And that's all they give us. So you're like, what the hell, right? What is there to come? And, well, I predict that they're going to falsely arrest and accuse John Keene tonight. Again, as a red herring. I don't think he's a killer. I think Adora is. Are we going to find out Adora is here? No. Are we going to find out more maybe towards her? Yeah. I think a big thing's going to happen tonight. I think that Detective Willis is going to find out about Camille's scars on tonight's episode, Falling. And that's definitely one thing I think is apparent. Whether anybody dies or anything else crazy happens, I'm not too sure. But I will tell you this. I believe Camille is going to have the... her scars are going to be revealed to Detective Willis. And though John is obviously getting arrested, I believe by the end, somebody's going to think that, you know, perhaps we have the wrong guy. And those are my predictions on episode 7 of Sharp Objects, Falling. Well, guys, thanks for joining me on another Sharp Objects review show here on the PanNerdia channel. AA Ron here again. And next week, I will be back to review episode 7, Falling, and preview the finale. And after that, we'll have one more final episode to not only discuss the finale, or the series finale, episode 8, but as well as the show as a whole. as I kind of break down what's to come. If you guys enjoyed this review, as well as any other content on this channel, go ahead and give me a like. Perhaps subscribe if you want to check out everything else. And be sure to jump over to the twitch.tv/PanNerdia channel every once in a while. That's where I go live with my paintings, particularly right now, Dragon Ball paintings. And then later I'll put time lapses up on YouTube of those. So plenty of content to come, not only here but also on Twitch. PanNerdia, PanNerdia, Aaron, out. We'll see you guys down the road. I'm going to go enjoy the enjoyment and watch the next episode. Let's see if I can close out this review the proper way, unlike I opened it. Testing testicles.